So thank you for agreeing to do this interview with me. My name is Liz Ayisi, and I would like to hear your experiences as you have passed through high school to college, especially in your mathematics education. At any time of the interview, if you feel you don't want to continue this anymore, please feel free and let me know. So reflecting back to when you transitioned from high school into college. Let's go into that frame of your life. Did you transfer any or some credits in college from high school?
So no, I never took any AP or honors courses in high school. I kind of just went to college. I took a lot of college prep classes. Like I ended up taking a non-AP version of calculus and pre-calculus and stuff like that. So when I got to college and took the placement test, they kind of placed me in calculus.
Okay. So your first math class in college was Calculus 1.
My first math class in college was pre-calculus. I ended up just taking pre-calculus so I can get a basis for Calc 1, more so just to prepare myself and also get a vibe of college courses.
Okay. Can you help me understand what your high school was like?
I went to a very large high school in Dayton, Ohio, called Centerville High School. Graduating class approximately 700. So, in general, the environment was extremely competitive. Everybody wants to be at the top of the class type of environment. So, I was never that kind of student. I was always just, I always just did what I needed to do, per se. I never really was a very studious person. But, I mean, obviously, I got by with pretty good grades. I graduated with, I think, a 3.1 GPA. So, I was doing okay.
Okay. How big was your high school?
My high school, I mean, if you do the math, every graduating class was approximately 700. So, you can say we had at least 2,500 students in the building at the time.
Okay. Was it well funded?
Yes, very well funded.
Okay. In what aspects?
It's one of the top public schools in Dayton. It's one of the top public schools in Dayton.
Okay. What sort of curriculum did your high school have?
They had pretty much anything you can think of. A lot of different clubs. Obviously, the sports programs were top tier in Dayton, Ohio. I was a part of the basketball team. I was also a part of the track and field team. And I had a job as well. So there was a lot of extracurriculars. They always had standardized tests, courses, after-school programs, all that kind of stuff. Everything.
What about the kind of mathematics curriculum your high school had?
They taught everything up to, I believe, Calculus 2, maybe. I'm not really sure. I only made it to Calc 1, but...
Was it in the track?
Pretty sure they had... Can you repeat that?
No, I was asking if you want to say more about the math curriculum that your high school had.
Yeah, so essentially, the basic path everyone took was, I believe, they took Algebra 1 to Geometry to Algebra 2 to Pre-Calculus. So my high school, you needed 4 credits to graduate, 4 credits of mathematics to graduate. So a typical path for students was Algebra 1, Geometry, Algebra 2, Pre-Calculus. But I knew I wanted to go to college for like a STEM type of degree. So I wanted to, make my resume look better by pursuing harder classes. So I took geometry over the summer to get ahead, and then I took pre-calculus of, I believe, my junior year. I took algebra 2 my sophomore year, and I took calculus 1 my senior year. And it was the same for science courses as well. Okay. I took chemistry 1 over the summer to get ahead.
Okay. Do you know if your high school or students in the school were in a track system?
What do you mean by track system?
So for the track system, they track your progress. They track the students' progress and place them in certain classes.
Okay.
Like for instance,
So,
maybe honors or something.
okay. Yes, they did have a track system. So there was a lower level, at least for geometry and algebra, there was a lower level, like an easier course for students that struggle with it more. There was a standard level, and then I think there was a standard level and then a reduced level.
Okay. And that was
I know
just for
that
geometry?
that was geometry and algebra. So
Okay.
they had algebra A and algebra B, and then geometry A and geometry B.
Okay.
And then they also had pre-algebra for students that needed to do that as well.
Can you
And
tell me about your experience in the
I was
track
always
system?
I was always in the standard course. I never struggled with math. Math was always one of my Math was my strongest subject throughout high school and college. So I never pursued any of the honors courses, mainly because I just didn't have the drive or the discipline to participate in courses like that in high school.
What was your major in college?
I studied chemical engineering in college.
Can you share with me what led you to that interest or that area and why you chose to be in STEM or be a STEM major?
Okay, so like we mentioned before, my high school was a well-funded program, so we had kind of like college prep or kind of like tech programs that you can sign up for that can lead you towards a career path that you're interested in. So they had IT tech programs, they had business tech programs, they had a biotechnology tech program.
Okay.
So I signed up for the biotechnology tech program, mainly because I was just interested in my strong suits were math and science. So I wanted to lean towards something that, could pique my interest.
Okay.
So I chose biotechnology, and obviously there's more like genetics, obviously biotechnology, things like that. So towards my senior year, I was interested in going into medicine or something healthcare related. But looking at the colleges and looking into the future, as in what requirements would be needed to get into medical schools, to get into pharmacy schools, to get into all these different, health professions. I knew myself at the time I did not have the discipline to maintain this GPA or maintain these scores. So I told myself, let me go ahead and choose a different path that could take me there.
Okay.
So my thought process was, I'm going to sign up for engineering because they have a little bit more lenience with engineering students when it comes to applying for healthcare programs, mainly because they know the coursework is a lot more difficult and it requires a little bit more. It requires a little bit more time in school because of the internships and stuff you have to do. So I was leaning towards either biomedical engineering or chemical engineering, mainly because those are the two main programs you would take to gear you towards a medical degree.
Okay. And you decide that in high school?
With the help of my parents, obviously. I grew up in a Nigerian household, so education is very valuable. And it's pushed very hard. So yeah,
Right.
that was a big influence on me, obviously.
Can you tell me yourself as a mathematics student? I want to hear how you would describe yourself as a math student.
I would definitely say I'm a very strong math student. Obviously, I'm a visual learner, so as long as the professor's in front of me performing the acts and showing us step by step how things are going, I instantly pick it up. Instantly. I never struggled with math ever.
Is would you say is mathematics part of your identity as a learner?
In terms of thinking, yes.
How so?
I like to think logically and like in steps, and I also like to think ahead of how the solution would look. And I think all of those kind of things relate with mathematics. You can always gauge by looking at an equation or a problem and see what kind of number or what kind of figure you would get just by looking at the problem. That's me looking into the future. And then, of course, you take the steps you need to take to get to that problem, get to that solution. And if you don't reach a number that's close or even realistic to that solution, then you know you did something wrong in the previous steps. That's how I look at it.
Okay. Do you like to contribute in your mathematics class? Why and why not?
I was a big contributor because, like I said, I'm a visual learner, so that means I feel like I have to get my hands on things to actually learn it. Especially, I remember in Calc 2, a lot of people like to tell you like that's a weed out course in college. So I made sure I was the person sitting in front of class, and anytime we had the opportunity to go to the board, I was the first one to volunteer. Mainly because I just wanted the opportunity to learn. So if I went to the board and made a mistake, the professor would tell me I made a mistake and tell the class. So to me, it wasn't an embarrassment thing. It was more of a opportunity for me to catch something I missed and for everybody else to see how not to make that mistake. That makes sense.
Yeah. Help me understand how you perceive your learning of mathematics.
How I perceive it? I guess it's kind of pattern-based. That makes sense. I catch the pattern and I just follow the pattern. It's no real crazy artistic thing about it, if that makes sense.
Okay. What opportunities were you interested in, or were you introduced to in high school? I know you touched base upon some things that were available, but what kind of opportunities were you introduced to when you were in high school?
Relating to my education?
Yes. Or relating to life?
So like I mentioned, I was introduced to the biotechnology program. Other than that, I held a couple like minimum wage jobs and stuff like that where I was dealing with money. So those are really the two big opportunities I had. I was also, when I was in middle school, I was in Kumon. If you know what that is.
Yes.
I felt like that was a little bit forced on me. I did enjoy it, and I don't think I picked up much from that, but other than that, I also did a couple like ACT prep courses and stuff.
Okay.
So,
were you comfortable with all these opportunities?
Yes, I was.
Okay. Were there activities set aside after school that you were interested in?
In terms of like clubs and extracurriculars, I played basketball throughout high school. I was an athlete up until my senior year, so all those other clubs, I really didn't get the opportunity to pursue, mainly because I would have practice like right after school and stuff like that. I would always miss any opportunity for something like any of the clubs that were offered. So
okay. How the activities that you were involved in, how did you get involved in?
Basketball. I obviously, as a young kid, you always want to, be like the superstar. So I think just seeing people play it when I grew up in Memphis, Tennessee. So seeing people play it just always gave me the drive to actually want to try it. And I didn't have the resources to actually play the sport in Memphis. So when I got to Dayton, and it was readily available to me, I just picked it up and ran with it. it's almost like growing up, you're not allowed to drink soda or something like that, and then you have unlimited access to soda, so you're like chugging it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's how it was for me. That's how it was for a lot of things, like video games and sports and stuff like that. But for sports, that's how it was for me. So I pursued it a lot in high school up until a point where I realized I didn't think I was going to go pretty far with it. So I was like, well, education is always going to be more valuable than pursuing a athletic career. That's how I viewed it. So obviously I still play the sport. Like I still play regularly, but not at an extremely competitive level. If that makes sense.
Yes, thank you. In high school, what activities do you think were missing?
In terms of programs, I felt the school should have had. That school had any program you could think of. I really don't think.
Okay.
If there was an opportunity, I would have missed it. I really don't think that's a thing.
And so, what kind of barriers prevented you from accessing mathematics opportunities?
Like I said, sports, time, I would say. I think that's the primary thing.
Okay. And you were working as well?
Yes, I was.
Okay. Tell me...
after practice, I was going to work for like 3 hours.
Wow.
So...
Did you work throughout high school?
I picked up my first job my sophomore year of high school.
Okay.
So as soon as I got my driver's license, I got a job at McDonald's. A typical high school job. So.
Did you like working there? At that time, of course.
I mean, I did. I actually enjoyed working at McDonald's, mainly because of the people that you would interact with. I really enjoyed it, honestly. I can honestly say I enjoyed working there.
Do you think you use any of your STEM skills, specifically mathematics skills, when you were back there?
Definitely. They always put me on the back register. So when you come through the drive-thru, the first window where they take your money,
yes,
they would put me there because they knew I was the fastest back there in terms of counting change and all that other stuff. So I thrived in that instance. I also was pretty good with the food prep. So
that's great.
I was pretty good with recognizing. Obviously, it was a pattern type of thing. So like you get an order of a Big Mac and a quarter pounder, whatever. You know how to make the Big Mac. You know how to make the quarter pounder. So it's more so an efficiency thing. How do you make? I would always challenge myself to see how fast I can do something. So like if I had an order of a Big Mac, I would try to push it through within 20 seconds. And then the next time I got the same order, I would try to push it through faster. Right. So that's how I kind of just challenged myself and just had fun with it.
And they noticed to put you there too.
Yeah.
What opportunities helped you? I think we've talked about one just now, but I'm curious to know more. The kind of opportunities that helped define your mathematics identity.
I would definitely say one of the very first math class I took in high school, Algebra 1, the professor was Mr. Taylor. I'll never forget him because he was just a goofy guy, but just the way he taught math was the ideal situation for me, 100%. He would go to the board, do an example of an extremely hard math problem. The first problem that he would do was the hardest math problem that he would give on an exam. So he would do it on the board step by step, literally step by step. And then after that, he would show us a really easy one. And then you crush the easy one because the harder one sets you up for success for the easy one. That makes sense. And then he would show us a medium level, intermediate level math problem. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the way he taught math was just ideal for me. And it carried on throughout my entire math experience. Also calculus 2. It was kind of the same concept with Mr. Taylor with calculus 2 because my professor was actually Ghanaian. I'll never forget him. Mr. Aduro, Dr. Aduro.
Mm-hmm.
He taught me calculus 2 and differential equations.
Mm-hmm.
So he taught math literally the exact same way Mr. Taylor did, and it was just ideal for me. So that really defined my follow the pattern and know what type of solution you should receive from the problem that you get. And that really carried over in engineering as well because engineering, believe it or not, is a lot of mathematics as well. So you should know what type of answer you're going to receive before you even solve the problem. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Mr. Taylor was in high school and Mr. Duro was in college.
Yes.
And they both kind of utilize the same teaching mechanism.
Method.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm curious to know how you perceive your mathematics identity.
Is there any way you can reword that question? Perceive it.
Yeah, so you told me how you define your mathematics identity through the examples of your high school algebra teacher and your college differential equation and calculus 2 teacher. But now I want to know how you perceive that math identity. As an engineer, how do you perceive your math identity?
I guess you could say my math identity would be very frank and straightforward. If that makes sense. I don't like to beat around the bush. Just get to the root of everything.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Okay. What kind of characteristics would combine, or would you say define this math identity? So for instance, I would say I have a very my math identity is more on resiliency. So even though I see a problem that I think is too ambiguous, because of that resilience I have, trusting that process, I'm able to stick with the problem till maybe I get a solution. Some people have different ways of how they define their math identity, especially people in STEM.
Okay, I get what you're trying to say now. I would say mine would be consistency and repetition. Definitely a repetition. Just cranking them out until you actually 100% know what you're doing. Even if you have to redo the same problem a couple times, I think that's how I think that would be my math identity. Just persistence, consistency, and repetition.
Okay. Describe a high point in your schooling. Let's say a time when you were most engaged and most alive in your mathematics education.
Definitely calculus 2 with Mr. Aduro. Definitely 100%.
Tell me more.
It was just I actually enjoyed going to that class every day. Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I enjoyed it. I had my seat up in the front of the class.
Yes.
Me and my friend Jalen. I would make my friend Jalen sit up front with me. And I was literally the one smiling and just participating. Everybody else was dead in the class, quiet. And I was the one kid raising his hand and everything. I enjoyed walking into that class every day. I was like, one of the classes I enjoyed. I remember taking physics that semester, and a couple of engineering courses, and I believe in English. And I believe every other class I hated going into, but that class was like, all right, well, I have Mr. Aduro. I 11:15, so I think I'll be straight for the rest of the day.
And you had him for 4 days, because you
Yeah.
had recitation on one of the days, right? Tuesday or
I
Thursday?
don't think, maybe, I don't remember, but I know for a fact we had lecture Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I think the credit, maybe it was I don't remember if it was a 3 or 4 credit hour class, but I know for a fact we had at least 3 days. So I knew I was going to get something out of the class. I knew when I walked in, he was going to get my undivided attention. I couldn't say the same for any other class I took in my entire college career, honestly. So,
what helpful, or you can think about as positive experience, did you have in mathematics education growing up?
helpful experiences. I think just my entire experience with math in high school. In middle school, math, I wouldn't have said was my favorite subject. Mainly because of the professor, like the teachers that I had, it kind of made it a little hard for me. But my high school experience with math kind of helped my experience with math. If that makes sense.
Yes.
Like I said, my freshman year in high school was my defining moment with math. And it kind of just, it basically molded my experience with math from high school, from that first day in Mr. Taylor's class to the last day with, discrete mathematics. That was my last math class. I don't remember the professor's name because during the pandemic, we went online and just whatever, but.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's go back to your high school math experience for a little bit. So you had Mr. Taylor for 9th grade.
Right.
Did you have Mr. Taylor again throughout high school?
No, he only taught Algebra 1.
Okay.
So.
And then you took Algebra 1, Geometry over the summer, Algebra 2, and Pre-Calc.
Pre-Calc, yes. And then Calculus 1, my senior year.
Your senior year. But it wasn't an AP Calculus track.
No. It was just a standard level, high school standard level.
Okay.
Calc 1.
Okay. So within that frame of high school, I know you touched base on Mr. Taylor's class a little bit. Can you describe a successful experience that you had?
In Mr. Taylor's class or just in math in general?
In all your math education in high school?
I think for the most part, I always had success with math. There was one class in my high school experience that wasn't successful. But I think for the most part, I was didn't have to study for anything, got A's type of math student. I couldn't say the same for anything like English, but stuff like that. I don't know. But I think in flip to that question, the hardest math class I took in high school was pre-calculus. Like I really struggled with that.
Why is that?
I don't know. I think it was just the teaching method was it was just different from all the other ones. And it never really clicked with me. That was probably the hardest. I think pre-calculus was the hardest math class I ever took in any of the math classes I took.
And you took it both, correct me though if I'm wrong, you took it both in high school and college?
Yes, I took it both in high school and college. And I remember, I think I got my final grade in pre-calculus was a C. I think that was the lowest grade I ever received in math. I was actually it kind of killed my spirit a little bit. I was probably the lowest math grade I ever got. But every other math grade in high school was either a B plus or higher. So.
Okay. So I want to understand this clearly. You took pre-calc in your junior year in high school, and then again your freshman year, first semester in college?
So I was a part of a kind of like a get ahead program in college. So I took pre-calc over the summer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you tell me a little bit about the Get Ahead program?
It's called Step Up program. I don't think it exists at Ohio University anymore, but it was basically like a scholarship program where they paid for your room and board and tuition for, I believe, 3 classes, which was a pretty good program. It was a good introduction to college life, college courses, stuff like that.
Okay. And they paid for that for just your first year or throughout?
Just that one summer semester.
The summer right before you transition to college. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I gotcha. Thank you. So as a Black student, how do you approach college mathematics education as a Black student?
As a Black student, you got to know that you got to be able to just teach yourself, because sometimes the professors are unapproachable or just unwilling to help. So you gotta know that you're probably going to have to teach yourself, or at least put in more work to get the reps in, because sometimes seeking help just isn't going to help you at all. I definitely got that experience in college.
And as a Black male, can you describe how you approach college math?
How I approached it was just repetition. Crank out problems left and right. That's the best way to learn math, honestly. Just repeating questions and rearranging. Honestly, if you have the skill, you can even rearrange problems to solve for different variables. So, and I really took into account in engineering, because one question they'll ask you to solve for pressure, but you can also rearrange the question and solve for temperature, or you can solve for other things, so I kind of just taught myself how to just crank stuff out, repeat stuff until you actually 100% get it.
Describe how your previous math experiences helped you adjust to your current life right now.
How my previous math experiences helped me adjust to my current life.
Yes.
I'm really good with numbers. So I can pretty much do majority of math in my head.
Okay.
It really helps out, especially with my girlfriend, who isn't very mathematically inclined. So she would ask me to do a math problem in my head, and within 5 seconds, I got the answer. It's always magic to her. It's kind of funny. But yeah, when it comes to math, I'm really good with numbers, quick with numbers. So.
Describe the helpful and or positive experiences that you've had as a Black student enrolled in college mathematics.
The helpful experiences I've had?
Yes. As a Black student enrolled in college math.
Well, one helpful experience is all the students, especially at Ohio University, I feel like we were a family. We always wanted to make sure each other were good and straight, making sure everybody was, doing to take the pass and stuff like that. So getting study groups and getting help with problems was never an issue. Just things like the camaraderie between the classmates and yourself was just a big thing that helped. also Duro helped a lot because he was like one of the only math teachers, one of the few math teachers that was easy to approach. If that makes sense. And actually willing to help you.
Okay. Was it because he was black?
I don't know. Maybe it's because I was a student that was always participating. So he's more willing to help me because he knows that I'm more willing to actually learn, if that makes sense. I'm not just coming as like a dire effort to try to pass a class. I'm actually trying to learn what's going on.
Okay.
And obviously I've been in situations where I was dying to pass a class and I went to a professor and they were really willing to help me and stuff. And I've been in a situation where I thought I just needed help and the professor just wasn't willing to help me or didn't help me at all. So, I don't know. I think for Duro's case, it's more so because of the fact that I was one of the students that was actually participating and wanted to learn. But,
okay. But in all your math classes, you participated?
I wouldn't say all math classes I participated, but that one in particular, mainly because of the stigma of it being a weed-out class, quote unquote. So I didn't want to be put in a situation where I failed that class.
Okay. Describe your experiences in college math education.
For the most part, it was smooth. I had a really rocky beginning though, because the first class I took, obviously in my fall semester of freshman year, was Comp 1, but I took it through the engineering department.
Okay.
The West College engineering department, and their teaching style was completely unorthodox. They did like a flipped classroom where you do the homework in class and you teach yourself outside. I was like, what is this? And then they give us the exams, and it's not math problems. It's more theory-based questions. And that absolutely threw me off, mainly because I don't think that way when it comes to math. If you give me the problem, I can get the pattern from that. But when they asked me like the theory behind it, that really threw me off. I don't know. So I really struggled with Comp 1. I tried to take that twice through the engineering department, and I struggled. So I ended up my third attempt. I failed the class twice. So my third attempt was through the math department, and I got an A. Like I crushed it. So it was just a teaching method. I didn't like it, and it actually hindered my success in that class, I feel. But other than that, my math experience was just a normal, typical experience, like compared to my high school experience. Because I learned that I would never take another class through the engineering department. It has to be through the math department, and from there on, it was just a typical experience.
Tell me what it means to you to be a STEM major or to have been a STEM major.
There's a lot of pride behind that because you know that what you're doing is actually hard work and you're actually working, like you're actually putting in work. Because I'm not trying to knock anybody, but some of the majors, you'll see them like just not doing any type of work, or their work is like very minimal, or just no effort type of work. And you know for a fact that this math exam that you're about to take is going to be one of the hardest classes, and then other people are literally just taking pictures for homework and stuff. I'm just like, whatever, man. All I know is I'm working hard, and at the end of the day, I'm going to reap the benefits of what I really put in. You know what I mean? And not to say they won't, but my method or my path is more guaranteed than theirs. Does that make any sense?
Yes.
So that's kind of like, I take a lot of pride in being like a STEM student. And I'm definitely going to push my younger cousins and my younger siblings to go towards STEM. Not to say if they decided to do something else, I would knock them for it, because obviously that's their choice, and at the end of the day, I'm going to support. But future is STEM, in my opinion. And if you want, to succeed, if you want guaranteed success, almost guaranteed success, I feel like STEM is like the best route to go.
I'm just curious how you want your predecessors or your nieces to also be in STEM. So tell me how about your experience as a Black STEM major in a predominantly white institution.
My experience?
Yes.
See, because of my high school environment, transitioning from my high school to Ohio University, there was no big transition.
In terms of race.
Yeah.
Okay.
I already knew how to interact with everybody, so I never had a problem with interacting with my classmates. I never had a problem with reaching out to them. They never had a problem with reaching out to me. I never struggled with any of that. So my experience was just like high school, pretty smooth, no problems.
Describe some mathematical skills that you lacked when you entered college.
Definitely the studying part, the repetition part. In high school, obviously, like I picked it up quickly. And high school is more of a baby stepping type of thing, so it was easier to get away with not studying or just barely studying a little bit. But when you got to college, you had to actually sit down and for hours a day put in the work, or you're not going to pass. You're not going to succeed. So when I got to college, especially after the Calc 1 experience, I realized that you really have to sit down and just get the repetition going.
Okay.
So,
what are some of the coping mechanisms that you used?
Coping mechanisms?
Yeah, or like coping strategies that you use for your success in college math.
As in, like, how I unwind, or
yes. So you talked about some of the skills you lacked coming in. You realized that the rigorous wasn't the same in high school versus in college. So I'm just curious to know what things you did to cope, or to come up with all these strategies to succeed in college. Although it was more robust, it was more fast paced.
It was definitely working with others.
Okay.
Can't really go in lone wolf, especially with math, because it's better to have more minds looking at a problem than just one. You might see it from a different angle and come up with a solution, but somebody else can see it from a different angle, and it gives you their perspective. So from that program that I took, I had a lot of classmates that followed me through a lot of my classes. So we always would get a room in one of the buildings and just do math problems. And if I understood it, I would explain step by step how to do it. Similarly to how my Mr. Taylor, my high school teacher, Mr. Taylor, would explain it. And if they figured, and if I was struggling with something, they would explain it. So that's basically how I got through it. That's how I coped with the beginning struggle with math, honestly.
Tell me about your math transition all the way from high school to college.
So high school experience was pretty much steady. I had that little hiccup my junior year, but from pretty much high school was a steady, good results. And then when I got to college, that first math class I took, I struggled. Well, pre-calc was a continuation of high school, so it was steady. Then I took calculus 1, and I struggled. I felt like I was declining a little bit. But then after I took it the third time and got an A, it kind of just went back up to that steady, just consistent good grades and all that other stuff. So,
what do you think went well, and what do you think were very challenging?
Throughout my entire math experience.
Yeah, or throughout that transition from high school to college?
Well, what went well was just how I approached math. So the pattern based, and then thinking of the future, the solution that you would get out of it. What didn't went well was in the beginning I was a horrible studier. Did not study well. So just had to remedy that issue.
Okay. How useful were the mathematical skills that you learned in your math education?
How useful?
Yeah.
They're very useful when it came to the engineering courses. Extremely useful when it comes to the engineering courses. Outside of school, they're still useful because when it comes to dealing with money,
Yes.
figuring out different percentages and stuff like that, just common math problems that you would face on a day-to-day basis. Just absolutely easy, no problem for me. So I would say overall it's useful. Obviously, you're not finding a derivative of some outside of calculus, but
yes,
useful.
Can you talk about the people outside of your school experiences who contributed to your mathematics identity or to your mathematics success?
Outside of school?
Yes.
If we're going to go outside of school in terms of the repetition part, I had a social studies teacher that really hammered repetition. He kind of would tell us in college, one thing that you need to succeed is just repetition.
Okay.
I think that was the best. I think that's what he kind of hammered into us. I never forget it. So
this is your social science teacher, though.
Yeah.
What about somebody who wasn't in school that you think contributed to your math identity?
My dad was actually my dad actually got a degree in accounting. He had a bachelor's and a master's degree in accounting. So my math brain I could definitely attribute my math brain to him.
Okay.
Very good with numbers, like next level.
Okay.
Good with numbers. So I guess some of those genes rolled over to me. You would say.
What experience do you remember having to define your math identity? That is an experience or an occurrence with your dad.
He was the one helping me out with math problems when I was younger, like elementary, middle school. So, like I said, middle school was a little rough in terms of math, but he kind of pushed me to realize that it wasn't as bad as I thought it was. So he kind of taught me a lot of tricks to how to deal with math. He's the one that actually showed me it was kind of pattern based. And then my freshman year was what really emphasized that.
Okay.
That makes sense.
From Mr. Taylor's class.
From Mr. Taylor's class, yes.
I see.
And then engineering was what really helped me determine how problems would look, like the end result of a problem. Engineering was what really helped me with that. So I think my sophomore year of engineering, I kind of learned that when you look at this kind of problem, you should know what type of answer you're going to get out of it.
That's a powerful skill to have as an engineer.
Right.
Yeah. I am curious about your experiences outside of school that contributed to your mathematics identity.
Working at McDonald's, being quick with numbers, especially with during lunch rush. You have to keep the line moving. And if you can't do simple change, you're going to be the bottleneck in the whole situation. So that was another big thing. Other than that, nothing really other than my dad and that job at McDonald's.
How long did you have that job at McDonald's?
I worked that job from sophomore year of high school till about my first internship. So 2013 till 2018, I had it for like 5 years.
Oh.
It was like I was obviously there um, sophomore year of high school, and then when I was in college, I would come back home, get a little extra money by working there and stuff like that. So
Cool.
yeah,
Do you go by that McDonald's sometimes?
no, I don't. I don't even live on that part of the of town, so I don't even drive by there often. But every once in a while, I'll drive by there.
Cool.
And I don't even eat McDonald's. So, I mean, I did when I was in high school, but now I don't even eat McDonald's. So,
Not even drink their coffee?
I don't even drink. I don't drink coffee.
Ah,
So,
interesting.
yeah, I'm not a coffee drinker. Not to say I don't eat McDonald's. Like every blue moon, randomly, I'll grab a burger or something. But
Okay. What kind of burger do you get there?
the quarter pounder is always the go-to.
Uh-huh.
I don't really mess with anything else. The quarter pounders and the McDoubles.
Yeah.
So that's really all I really got. I didn't like the Big Macs. I don't really like the Big Mac sauce. I don't get the craze.
Uh-huh. Well, I really enjoy their coffee. As you can see, I'm drinking McDonald's
Yeah,
coffee.
I saw you chugging it. So.
Yeah, I really enjoy. Especially they were very close on Richmond. So whenever I'm in Athens, I'll grab a coffee in the morning. So even though I have coffee at home, I just like to drink McDonald's coffee. Yeah.
And it's pretty cheap. I think like coffee is like $1. I don't know if they changed it. I haven't worked there in a while. But
No, they're still the same.
yeah, I figured. So
It's great that some things stay the same and they don't change.
right.
Can you help me understand the ways that you perceive your academic success as a high achieving black college, as a high achieving black college STEM student or as a student in general?
How I see my success?
Yes, how do you perceive your academic success?
How do I perceive it? It just took a lot of persistence. I think that's the key word, persistence. Not wanting to give up. Not allowing yourself to give up really is the big thing. Especially with STEM, because you're guaranteed to face a tough class every semester. If not 2 or 3. You're guaranteed. So just telling yourself that you can get through it is the biggest thing. Not allowing yourself to take the easy way out. If I answered that question.
Yes, you did.
Okay.
What about what you perceive to be your academic barriers as a high achieving black student?
Academic barriers. I'm horrible at maintaining focus. I know that for a fact. So, just staying, in terms of consistency, just staying focused was something I always struggle with. From high school, middle school, I might be an undiagnosed ADHD person, but I always struggle with just maintaining focus. No, I'm not going to sit here and say I had that, because there's other things that I could literally, they would have my attention for hours. So, I don't know. Just maintaining focus and maintaining interest in some things was my barrier. Especially when you start allowing yourself to think, like, where am I going to even use this stuff, kind of mindsets and mentalities. That's when you really start to get into your head, like, I can't even pay attention to this kind of stuff. So,
as a high achieving student, or as a high achieving black male student, what helpful or like positive experiences did you have in college?
Helpful, positive experiences. Did you ask that question already? I feel like you asked that question already.
Probably in a different form.
Okay. Can you repeat the question then?
As a high achieving student, so we've already established that you were a high achieving student. And so having that notion as a high achieving student that you are, I want to know what helpful or positive experiences you had in college.
Positive experiences.
I could give you a scenario that might help you think about.
Yeah.
Let's say your nephew, you say you encourage your nephew to go into STEM. Let's say your nephew is going to the same college you went to, Ohio University. What would you tell your nephew to experience? I'm guessing you would tell the positive experiences, so then he wouldn't miss it. So those are the positive experiences that I'm curious to know you had at Ohio University.
Okay. Well, positive experiences was just getting a group of friends and getting through a course. I think that was like great experiences. Spending late nights, just studying, joking around, getting work done. I think that's just a college experience that everybody should have, but especially for STEM majors, you gotta have a crew to get through it. You gotta have a group of people to do it. Lone wolfing it works for some people, like those super geniuses that don't gotta study for anything, but for us regular folk, you gotta have a group of people to get through it. For sure.
Okay. And how do you gather these group of people?
You ask around. You just go up to people that have the same mindset as you, that wants to succeed. You can see them in class, the ones that participate, the ones that sit in front of the class, stuff like that. Just reach out to them, say, hey, do you have a group of people that you're studying with? How do you go about studying? Do you like to study alone? Some people like to study alone, and then that's fine. You can just, in class, you can bounce back ideas, but some people like to study alone. Some people like to study in groups. So when you reach out to people and they want to study with you, then you have one person, and then they can reach out to other people, and then next thing you know, you have 5 people in a room joking around, cranking out problems. So,
were you involved in any organizational activities in college that helped with your math identity?
I was a part of NSBE, National Society of Black Engineers, and then of course that Step Up summer program. That really helped with the gathering a group to study portion of college. In terms of my math identity, I wouldn't say Step Up. I would say Step Up kind of helped, but I wouldn't say NSBE helped much with that. Kind of feel like I already had my identity defined before I joined NSBE. If that makes sense.
Do you think you had it well defined prior to college or in that transition, or you had it defined in high school?
I think I had it defined. I think it was solidified my sophomore year when I took not algebra, but calculus with Duro. I think that kind of solidified it for me.
Okay. This is my last question for you.
Okay.
What kind of advice would you give to incoming first-year Black college students in STEM education?
My advice for them is don't give up because it's hard. I think that's a thing a lot of people like to do. They see something's hard and they feel like there could be an easy route to do it. But sometimes you just got to chuck through the tough times in order to reap the benefits of the success you would gain from being persistent and consistent. You know what I mean? So for first year students, I would say find your crew, and find a room and make memories, get to laughing with each other, and just be consistent with the problems that you're doing, and be consistent with studying. Because when you're consistent, it's kind of hard. It's harder to fail when you're consistent with something in terms of repetition and all that. And then if you do find yourself in a situation where you do fail, you can allow yourself to feel like that's the end. Because with failure comes success. So just because you got knocked down doesn't mean you will never be able to get back up. And if I told myself, if I was in a situation where I got knocked down and I never got back up, I wouldn't be even talking to you right now. I would have been dropped out because I had a lot of struggles. And I almost had moments where I thought I wasn't going to make it. But it was just my mindset of not wanting to fail. And wanted to set a really good example for the people behind me that really pushed me to pursue what I was pursuing and not want to give up. For me, it was like, I much rather die than not pass this, honestly. So that's how I see it. That's how I saw it.
I think they will really appreciate that advice, because in college it's tough. You can't not give up. It's not going to be easy.
You're not allowed to. You can't allow yourself to give up. You really can't. Because there's people before you that didn't even have close to the resources you had, and they somehow got through it.
Right.
And you can meet some of the people where you're looking like, how did you get through it? You know what I mean? But just like how you could get through it, they probably just never gave up. Yes. Some people will take 6 years to finish college. Some people take 7. The farthest I've seen people take is 7 years. So even if it takes you 7 years, some people will be consistent. Like for me, it took me 5. So it took me 5 years. It is what it is, and I got through it, and now I'm successful. Just because you don't crank it out in the typical standard 4 years doesn't mean you're not going to succeed in life. Right. You know what I mean?
Yeah. As you look back right now, what would you say? In your transition, we've reflected back to when you were transitioning from high school to college. So how do you see that right now? All your success, all your failures, all the barriers, everything.
It puts a smile on my face because of the memories that come with it. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So it's cool to finally, like, when you finally cross that line and you got your degree and all that other stuff. It's kind of like more just funny memories just to think back, like, dang, like, I almost did this, or I could have did that instead, and I could have ended up like this if I didn't do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, I'm happy to see you laugh. So thank you so much. Thank you so much.